A lot of people think writing horror is about violence or about shock and gore and jump scares. But for some of us, horror is about truth. It's about letting the truest version of yourself out, including the ugly parts, the unfiltered ones, the thoughts that you know aren't fit for public consumption. Horror is that thing that you reach when you're tired of cutting yourself into little pieces and only bringing the acceptable parts into light and become like this little Frankenstein of yourself that is devoid of like all of the things that make you you. And if that sounds familiar, this video is probably for you. People ask me why I write horror, and every time that happens, my brain kind of short circuits. And it's not necessarily that I don't have an answer, but it's because the real thing and what I would like to say never sounds acceptable enough. It's not like something you're supposed to say out loud. If you're new here, hi. My name is Beatrice, and I'm a writer, and horror is the language I keep coming back to even when I try not to. And believe me, I have tried many, many times. A lot. Here's my problem: horror doesn't feel like a choice to me. It's like a leak that comes through my pores, and it comes through my fingers, through my eyelids, and it overcomes every single sense. It just possesses me before I've even decided what to say or what to write or what has to happen in a story and in real life as well. The first story I wrote in my life was this like shoujo inspired high fantasy magical girl self insert situation of like a Mary Sue long lost princess that had found this magical faraway land and everyone loved her, and it was all of the tropes that you could possibly believe could exist in a story like that. And even that had horror, it had trauma, it had suffering, it had fear, it had all of this awful things and all these scenes that like scared the shit out of me when I was writing and like kept me up at night. And that was kind of fucked up because I was 12. But it didn't feel excessive or like weird or like I was forcing anything. It just came so naturally. It felt like it had to be. It, it felt real. It felt like it was the only way it could possibly go. And honestly, that should have been my first clue that there was something going on with me, maybe. It's hard, you know, because when someone talks about horror and like this kinds of things in like this way, people always assume that it's like they're trying to be super edgy and like dark and pretentious and like, oh, I'm light Jagami and all of the stereotypical edgelord thing going on, or like just purposefully dramatic and wanting to cause shock. And I am very afraid of just saying these things out loud. And I'm absolutely hyper aware of how I can be perceived at all times when I open my mouth, and especially when I talk about things like this. So even now, I'm trying to not use too many strong words and still pace myself and still make sure that I am coherent and nice and I'm smiling and looking at the camera so no one knows I'm reading my script that I spent way too long working on, and all of the things that you are supposed to do. And it's so fucked up. But I want to be taken seriously, so I have to do it, you know? I have this fear, but also like a desperation to word vomit and let absolutely everything that is inside of me go and fully open the floodgates and just be free for once and let it all come out. And I constantly know that I have to measure myself to not have all of my feelings and my thoughts and my fears and all of these things inside of me just tossed aside because someone is going to think I'm an edgy teenager and I'm too much and too dramatic and too overwhelming. And it's so strong that it's so hard to breathe and think and exist like this. And that fear is part of the horror. Look, I don't think I'm explaining this right. Let me start again. Writing horror is freedom. It lets me stop editing myself for once. It lets me go into the parts of myself I keep hidden. Not because they're evil necessarily, but they're inconvenient. They're loud and hard to explain and messy and uncomfortable. And they're too much for everyone around. But horror is the one place where I don't have to make myself palatable for anyone for once. It gives shape and substance and light to things that would otherwise just stay trapped in my body and keep bloating me and growing and expanding until they explode and I become a gruesome, nasty, gnarly splat on the wall behind me filled with meat and bones and teeth and suffering and so much. The truth is that I live in constant horror. And it's not necessarily because of anything specific happening to me right now or because I had like the most traumatic childhood of like existence or anything like that. Even though right now like life is actually a horror movie for all of us, but that's not what I mean. It's my brain, right? There's something about the way my brain processes things. I think that was a bug, but the second time it was nothing. This is what I was talking about. There's something about the way that my brain processes things that is, I don't even know what I wrote. What did I write? It's inherently horrific. The paranoia, the hyper awareness, the constant pretending like I'm normal, pretending that I'm like everyone else, like all of these things, the analyzing of every single person and every interaction that I have, just like trying to deduce the absolutely perfect way that I am going to be perceived in the way that I am. I want to be perceived or cared for or loved or even just like accepted or even just like let be like alone. It's like it's fucking hard. And I it's also like I feel the need to continue acknowledging constantly that I know that I am not unique in this situation and I know that people experience this thing as well. And hopefully if you are watching this and you experience this thing, you feel less fucked up and less alone and all of those things. And the people pleaser in me is really terrified of just being misunderstood and being seen as something I didn't intend to be. Because honestly, I kind of just wanted to vent and talk about my personal experience and all of that, but I can't stop over worrying and over mm, apologizing for just existing in this like raw form, which is ironically the whole point of this, right? Because writing, when I was writing the script, and like now that I'm just talking to the camera and like talking to you, you stranger, whoever you are, is absolutely horrific to me. Time I write, I feel the words trying to crawl out from under my fingernails because they're going too fast to the pace that is humanly possible to do in a keyboard. I feel them right now coming out of my teeth, like breaking through the bone because I can't speak fast enough. I feel I feel it like in my throat. I feel it's trying to burst from my chest, and it's like ripping my entrails and like my tendons and my skin apart from the inside. I feel it in my back. It's like this thing constricting the airflow so it doesn't get to my lungs. So I exhale, and every single time I inhale again, I get one, like a little bit less and a little bit less until eventually there's no air. And I finally just stop. I feel that. I'm feeling that right now. I see all of the little lights on my vision and like the shadows in the corner of my eye. I see them. I see their faces and I see their eyes and I see them attacking me, constantly screaming, whispering, just there, just staring, just looking. That's right now. That's life for me right now. That's me talking about this in this moment. That's that's just the reality of how I perceive the world, how I exist every single day of my life, in every single interaction that I have with my environment from the second that I open my eyes. I guess it's in my nature. And I guess it's also in my nature to wake up and immediately think one of my loved ones is not here anymore. Or like saying this, which is like a little strand of yarn because I was crocheting, and immediately think that it's like a bug attacking me because I have very bad phobia of insects, or just being constantly convinced that there's things crawling under my skin. Like there's something got inside my ear and it's eating my brain. It's the fear that one day I will finally run into traffic. And it's not because I want to do those things. It's like the thoughts attacking me because my brain finds it amusing to torture me. It has to be my nature, then. It has to be the nature of all of us. Every single person that experiences something like this. Your nature, if you have stayed this long for some reason, I guess it didn't help knowing that I ran out of fingers trying to account the number of times someone has called me a monster, insensitive, manipulative, a harpy, a succubus, a bitch, a whore, a robot without emotions, a terrible, terrible human being, a non human being, something that should be discarded or locked away forever. I don't know. You hear that long enough and you kind of start believing it because, like, what what else are you gonna do? When I was in high school, one of my teachers convinced my entire class I was possessed by the devil. That's just how it is for me. And maybe that's just how it has been for you too. But it's fine, right? Because it made me who I am. It makes us who we are, and here we are. Am I doing it right this time? Let's try again one more time. Writing horror is cathartic to me. It lets me put thoughts on the page that would otherwise rot inside my head, and lets me do things that I would never do in real life. Horror is my friend, it's my lover, it's my everything. I've tried writing lighter stories, don't get me wrong. I really tried. I spent a significant amount of years forcing myself to fit into the mold of YN romance and all of these stories because I've been wanting to be a successful author as like a career path since I was born. And I convinced myself that the only way to actually do it was to do this extremely commercial things, and they were nice, they were sweet, they were supposed to be comforting, but something inside of me kept tainting them, and they ended up being absolutely depressing or completely terrifying, or I would just drop them because I didn't even want to see them. The comfort, the feel good felt so alien to me. I couldn't even fathom understanding how to actually write something like that. And I didn't want them to be dark, right? Like it just happened. It's the only emotional landscape that I understand. Horror doesn't ask me to control my fear or to pretend to be someone I am not. It doesn't force me to make my feelings smaller or more digestible. It's inside of it, I feel like I don't have to be justified or molded into something or fixed or redeemed. I I feel like I'm just allowed to exist. It's the only way that I can be allowed to exist. So no, I don't write horror because I love violence or torturing my characters. But it's literally the only place where I can exist as I am truly and freely. Horror lets me be honest about my thoughts instead of being afraid of them. It gives me a pass to be myself in a world where I cannot be myself. Not fully, not authentically, not raw. I know horror doesn't fix me and it doesn't make things feel better, but writing about mental breakdowns and hallucinations and spirals and caterpillars underneath your fingernails and eyes everywhere and pretty girls that eat someone's faces makes me just feel at home with monsters like me.